Hey everyone, welcome back to Girl Next Door. Thank you so much for being here. Today's topic is going to be about monogamy. Before I get into the really juicy stuff, I want to highlight that we never have sex in a vacuum. I mean that the way we have sex is predetermined by the stage of our life that we're at right now. It's predetermined by the porn that we watch. It's predetermined by upbringing, social circles, social settings, and among other things, of course, is the culture that we live in. Whatever it is that you do or you want to pursue in the bedroom, do you. I'm not here to tell you what's right or what's wrong. This video is not going to determine what's morally correct. I'm just going to share my own personal experience and opinion and some of the findings that I acquired throughout the years. The reason I absolutely love this topic is because it combines biology, evolution, psychology, sociology, moral standards. It's quite uncomfortable for a lot of people and I totally understand why, but at the same time I think it's crucial to talk about the things that drive us to mate. I've tried to be casual with people, as in I've tried to be in an open relationship before, and I'm so happy to say that at this stage of my life I've been lucky to find out that the only thing that works for me is actually monogamy. Naturally, I wanted to find out why I was failing at something that other people seem to be so good at. And what I found was fascinating, and this is what I'm about to share with you today. The first and most common argument that I hear is that monogamy is not natural. Well, when you look at history, a lot of other things were natural. Rape was natural. People killing each other for no apparent reason was natural. So really, whether monogamy is natural or not is not strong enough of an argument to sway me away from it. Another very common thing that I hear is people blaming monogamy for the high divorce rate, especially in America. I don't think that marriage and monogamy are linked in such a way so that we can blame monogamy for a failed marriage. And of course, we have the good old animals do it, so we should do it too, which I actually think is quite a good argument, and I'm going to give you some evidence as to what I'm thinking about it later on in this video. So, polygamy. They call it the way to the future. The one argument that I agree with that supports polygamy is the element of honesty. So at least people in poly relationships are honest, because without that, you're pretty much cheating, right? And while science can justify your urges, it can't justify you hurting somebody that didn't consent to whatever it is that you're doing. Some arguments against polygamy are that it's extremely difficult to pull off. And this is where I'm going to mention Neil Strauss. He's an extremely popular writer. He was also a very successful pickup artist. And in his book, The Truth, he goes on about his poly journey in detail. And as a man who's quite well trained in the successful manipulation of female attraction mechanisms, he describes how extremely difficult it is to maintain a poly relationship. I really recommend you give this book a go. It's all fun and games until someone has sex with someone that the other partner doesn't like or approve of. Also, some basic arithmetic. If a monogamous relationship is so difficult and complex, which it absolutely is, I don't understand how a relationship involving multiple people is going to be easier. This is where you'd probably say because there's no jealousy involved. Well, we'll see about that. Sexuality seems to be one of the things that makes people completely irrational. So one of the arguments against monogamy is that we're just human and that we're human animals. And like I said before, I actually think this is a very good argument. So I want to turn to evolution and biology for the next few theories that I'm going to give you in order to kind of express where I stand on the topic. Theory number one. Put very simply, ancestral men wanted to ensure paternity and survival of their genes. Ancestral women wanted to ensure the safety and survival of themselves and their children. So, signals of fidelity provide a man with a solution to one of the most important mating challenges that he faces, which is ensuring the paternity of his children. At the same time, signals of fidelity provide women with the solution to their most important mating challenge, which is ensuring that the resources for their safety and survival and the one of their children too is not going to be allocated to other women at the same time. Theory number 2. Men have psychological adaptations that orient them towards short-term sexual strategies. We all know Tinder, right? The typical ratio in apps such as Tinder favors women. What does that mean? It means that there's more men than women on Tinder because more men than women pursue short-term sexual opportunities. 60% of men and 38% of women admit to trying to lure someone else's partner into a short-term encounter. 3 times more men than women voice possessiveness complaints. Men and women just react differently to the idea of casual sex, and it actually differs by gender across cultures too. In ancestral times, men went off for weeks to hunt, and that opened a window of opportunity for women to pursue extramarital sexual opportunities due to the fact that they were left without protection. So ancestral women often would use sex to ensure their safety and the safety of their children while the man was off hunting for weeks. Women regard promiscuity and pre-existing relationships as highly undesirable because they signal that this potential partner is not reliable in terms of commitment, and also the possibility that this potential partner is still pursuing short-term sexual opportunities, which effectively makes him a poor long-term mating prospect. So men find promiscuity mildly desirable when they're pursuing short-term opportunities, in contrast to chastity, which is quite highly desirable when they're pursuing somebody for a long-term relationship. Something very interesting that I found is that in their pursuit for casual sex, homosexual men are actually quite similar to heterosexual men, and homosexual women are quite similar to heterosexual women. Theory number 3. Humans are not monogamous animals. People are strikingly similar to insects when it comes to protecting their mate. Insects will literally conceal their mate from potential competitors. Let's look at one of the examples of polygyny throughout history. Harems. The word harem actually means forbidden. It was just as difficult to leave the harem than it was for outsider men to enter. To me, that doesn't sound like a poly relationship, it sounds like mate monopolization. Ancestral people needed a psychological mechanism to alert them of a potential threat to their mating goals. An alert that would signal that they would need to deploy mate guarding strategies, and this mechanism is actually called jealousy. Jealousy in itself is a perceived threat to a valued either romantic or sexual relationship. And men and women don't actually differ in the frequency or the magnitude of the jealousy that they experience. They differ in the context that they get jealous in. Theory number 4. Humans are only driven by a need to survive and genetically reproduce. The commitment that women seek is precisely the investment that men are so selective about allocating. And at the same time, the sexual access that men seek is the one thing that women are so hesitant about giving away. I'm sure we can all agree that anything scarce is valuable and anything in abundance is not that valuable because it's so much easier to obtain. By withholding sex, women raise its value and render it a scarce resource. If the only way men could get access to sex with a female was by commitment, they would probably invest that commitment in her. However, this only works in conditions of sexual scarcity, and I don't really think that we live in conditions of sexual scarcity nowadays, do you? Women are more likely to be sexual deceivers and men are more likely to be commitment deceivers. If we solely abide by the rule that men and women were evolved by natural selection to survive and reproduce, then minimal access to sex is the only thing a woman needs. And also, there is very rarely a shortage of men willing to provide her that opportunity. In simple words, sperm isn't scarce. Within a 1-year period, a woman can only get pregnant once by a single male, whereas within that same 1-year period, a man can allocate his genetic resources to multiple women. Here's a little quote for you about this. The biological irony of this double standard is that males couldn't have been selected for promiscuity if historically females had denied them the opportunity for expression of the trait. Sociosexual orientation is the term that defines a person's willingness at any point to participate in sexual activities outside of a committed relationship. So you have the freedom to decide whether or not you're willing to do that. I personally don't think that we have yet evolved to a point where we can make polygamy work in the long term. One of the reasons why not only monogamy fails as a mating strategy is that people think they know each other, so they stop paying attention. Whereas in reality, a human being is a combination of millions of years of evolution that drives us at a much slower pace than we can actually imagine. If we're looking at a possibility of a polygamous society in the future, I think we should acknowledge the real possibility of the fact that a small percentage of men would get access to all the women, which in itself would lead to violence in men that weren't among the top few. It would lead to collective unhappiness in women due to the fact that they can't fulfill their own mating goal. And the most important component is it would make raising children extremely difficult. In my last job, I used to say to some of my clients, think about getting to the age where you can't fart without getting lower back pain. And who do you want there beside you? I think the norm should be fidelity and other highly attractive traits such as devotion and care. Of course, nothing says I love you more than bringing home a boyfriend to meet your husband or the other way around. Whatever it is that you want to do, I hope that you're happy, I hope that you're enjoying life, and I hope that you enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!